Hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody across the globe. We are here for the semi-finals of the Victory Road World Cup Tour, hosted by Victory Road, of course, and GG Tour sponsors with Elgato and Metafi. So, apologies, we just may be experiencing some technical difficulties. So we will be back very shortly, as we believe at the minute there may be an issue with the share screening, from what I can see. All right. So, with that being said, we are currently in the process of getting it set up. Apologies for the difficulties. But, Yuki, we are here, of course, for the match between Canada and Australia, and what a match it's going to be, as there's a lot of hype that has been building up with both of these teams right now. And in the situation that we are currently in as well, we've got a very hype set of matches that we are going to be following through to today, and we're going to be showing and displaying for everybody at home.
Yeah, absolutely, Costa. I can't agree with you more. We're over here in Championship Sunday before the real Championship Sunday, probably next week for the finals. And we're here for all of the marbles, right? Like some of these semifinalists, like they already guaranteed 500 USD per their team. But, once they make it to the next stage, they get at least 1,500 for getting second place and big 2,500 for the first place. And, for all of that, the absolute, honor and privilege of saying that you were the champion of this year's Victory World Cup. So I'm really, really excited. The stakes haven't been as high this whole season yet. And yeah, like who's going to play against Thailand next week?
Well, exactly that. And I mean, the way that Thailand was able to just go ahead and get that win in a very triumphant way yesterday versus France, which was actually one of the countries that were pinged to be one of the favorites to go ahead and be the winners and champions potentially. As we can see in the brackets, we can kind of see the journey that all of these teams have gone ahead and gone through essentially within the top 16. Thailand went through a barrage of fierce teams, of course, as well as Canada and Australia kind of picking up right now. And of course, all of these teams have reached the top four, most definitely for the first time ever in all of their participations of the Victory Road World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's just phenomenal. Like, it's been such a year of upsets, right? Like we had Spain, lose out in the group stage when they were the champions last year. We saw Italy go early on, which also they're in the top 16 this year, but they were in the finalists for last year. And I believe I think like South Korea made it to top 8 this time, even though they were in the top 4 last year. So we had a lot of upsets this year. And speaking of upset, I mean, all 4 of the teams in the semifinals this year were not there last year. So just a lot of overperformance in comparison to last year, which is super exciting to see. And yeah, it's just Canada versus Australia, and what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, exactly that. And I think I'm very hyped up too, because we've got world-class caliber players, especially in the Canada versus Australia matchup. We've got a lot of players, or a couple of players that have actually started within the sort of COVID slash Dynamax season of VGC, so they haven't played prior formats before that. But going into this situation, we do have a lot of veteran players that have been playing a while from both sides as well. So we've got some stellar names coming up from both countries as well too. So I'm quite excited to actually see our first one, which is of course going to be Navjit Joshi versus Henry Rich.
Absolutely. We can probably talk a little bit more in depth once we actually get to the players preview. But I think the most notable thing is that both of these players are currently undefeated. They are both 7-0. I mean, talk about a Titan matchup, right? Like, what could be most high stakes? What could be a most exciting first match? Like, I just can't wait to go into this. So yeah, like this is the schedule you can see here. I think one thing to really note is that these matches are on chronological order, so each player knows how many wins have been done for their team until their match. So the pressure of obviously starting off 0-0, that's accurate, but if it's 3-3 tied to the end, then the last 2 players really have it for all the marbles. So yeah, I just love how this has been set up, and this is the team match of the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the fact of the matter because similar to what we saw yesterday, we saw actually Thailand versus France. Thailand went up 4-0, so being able to actually experience, obviously, the real sort of live environment of pressure that's going on between both of these countries, going into each of the individual sets at the time that they have played, like chronologically, like you mentioned, is a really good way to kind of follow the exact sort of situation, the highlights of the details of the build-up of these sets. So that's what we wanted to ensure as well from Victory Road, to make sure that, of course, we're going ahead and we're re-simulating the live and sort of environment, per se, of the pressure going into these matches. So being able to see how this is going to unfold is going to be very interesting, because like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of differences between, let's say, for example, like you mentioned Yuki, if you're 3-0 and you're up, and then all of a sudden your opponents start making the comeback and they push you to 3-3, and you're like, wait, all of a sudden, what's going on right now? We really need to win this final set. Please do it. And all of this pressure, like, kind of like surmounts onto one player, and your team has to do the best to kind of give that support to the player and not just put all the pressure, kind of alleviate the pressure and say, right, we're going to tackle this together, we're going to do it, and we're going to get the win. So I'm really hyped and excited to see this sort of scenario.
I can just tell from your voice and expression, it's and you have every reason to be, right. And just one other point I wanted to give is because you know the actual score of the from the previous matches before yours, what I'm interested to see is how much of these players end up staying with their choice of what their comfort pick is, right? Like maybe if you're in the first match you think, okay, like it's still 0-0, like I'm just gonna go with what I'm comfortable with, I'm just gonna go with what I'm confident with, so I can just give the best chances for us to win. Whereas maybe when it becomes 2-1, 3-1 or something like that, then you might think, oh, like now, if they counter team me and, I just get a really horrible matchup. They use, I'm learning to use Calyrex Shadow and they just use Yveltal. I don't want to lose on the spot. So I'm just going to, use something different from what I used before. And that just gives it a lot more variety and a bit more of an upset, I would say. So I'm also really curious to follow along, because we have all the data on which teams players have been using. And yeah, I think we can really do that comparison match by match.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think it'll be very cool to actually see how, of course, it unfolds. So we're just going to go ahead and look into a bit more of the information and the build-up between these two countries, because we want to kind of give a bit more of a preview as to what they've kind of gone through, how they've come through it, and they've reached the section that they have right now, and kind of like go a bit and talk about the actual sort of situation. We've got two new managers, which are actually managing Team Australia, that being Luke Kirktail and Sam Pandelis. And we've got returning managers from Canada too, which of course they already have that pre-existing experience and situation going in on their sides of things. But we're just going to go ahead and skip straight into the team preview. Oh, sorry, not team previews, apologies. The achievements sections of the player profiles for both of these trainers. We've got Navjit on the left and Henry on the right.
Yeah, so we can kick it off with Navjit Joshi over on Canada. You can see the accolades. More of a newer player that started around 2 years ago in the Sword and Shield era, but definitely has a lot of qualifications to boot. You can see the official results in the Players' Cup getting the top 16, but obviously a lot of accolades from a little bit more grassroots tournaments with the top 32 in the Victory Road January Challenge, top 16 in the X9 League, and then like most notably, I would say, is being a champion for NPA 10. Also another team-based event. So yeah, clearly, really used to this environment of team competition. So I can imagine that he might have taken maybe more of a leadership role on the team. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what kind of team he brings. I think there's a lot of consistency in him using a Zacian Kyogre, Venusaur, and Torkoal, I guess, that we kind of see in the team preview over here. But I want to let you talk about Henry Rich.
Yeah, I mean, Henry, my boy, Henry. So, Henry is one of those players that's been around VGC for so long right now. And he's always there when it comes to leading the sort of meta gameplay that's kind of like plays out within the Australia sort of community, the Australian community. Personally speaking, I think he's a lovely person. He wants to go ahead and try to ensure that he looks out for everyone around him, whilst also, kind of like going in with the team building and making sure that, for example, right, let's go ahead and let's build something that's going to break the meta. Let's just go for it right now. And actually seeing him play more of a should I say, a more meta consistent team in comparison to, let's say, some more surprising sort of niche picks that he may go for, kind of means that, right, he's serious. He wants to try to go ahead and ensure that Australia can do the best that they can going into the finals, hopefully, and he could try to help his team out with that. I do know that, of course, he'll be aware of NJ's sort of familiarity and preference of using his team. We know that NJ's been using his team throughout the entirety of this tournament. He has changed up a bit of the composition, I believe, between the Landorus Therian, which was previously there. Now it doesn't have one, but it actually has a Regieleki instead. So maybe Navjit's gone ahead and kind of try to adapt to Henry's playstyle. So I am quite curious to see how Henry from his side of things is going to respond. He does have Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and a Whimsicott, and we know that duo is so capable of just unleashing absolute mayhem out in a team matchup.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see also the adjustment over from the Landorus, right? Like, I think it could be kind of a double-edged sword. Like the Landorus has a good matchup against Henry's own Regieleki. But on the other hand, the fact that NJ has his own Regieleki over that Landorus now means the matchup against Henry's Kyogre is a little bit better. So I'm really interested to see whether it plays out well for him, whether this the adjustment to Regieleki works.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think there's a lot of different ways I could go about it. Henry might want to go ahead and lean more towards the Landorus Therian, for example, which would kind of make a lot of sense, but then it can become a bit more predictable, maybe, let's say, for NJ to go ahead and try to go ahead and tackle against this. So apologies right now. Myself and Yuki don't actually have visual on the stream. We unfortunately have a black screen of her death right now. So we're just trying to go ahead and figure out where we can actually go ahead and preview and watch the actual stream itself. I guess we're going to go and hop over to the stream. But yes, sure. With that being said, though, I am really looking forward to go ahead and start this matchup. I believe we are on team preview right now. So do you think, Yuki, that the female Ndidi may be brought here, for example, and put in some mileage with that Calyrex Shadow Rider?
I think it's interesting, right? Because it can redirect a lot of the single target attacks coming out from Navjit's, Venusaur or Zacian, but on the other hand, doesn't really do too much against the Kyogre. So I'm not too surprised to not see it here. I think you definitely want to get a bit more of the speed control. So we finally do see the screen. So we're really kicking off this match between the two undefeated players for the semifinals. So give it up for these two players. I'm really excited to see, just a hyper offense lead that we just as predicted. Two supporting Pokemon, Tornadus versus Whimsicott versus, one of the most powerful restricted pairing, Calyrex versus Zacian.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think this is a sort of speed control battle, right? You want to make sure that you can go ahead and try to, if you establish speed control versus your opponent, you will likely go ahead and win. And we've seen that Calyrex Shadow Riders can sometimes even run Trick Room to kind of like go for the counterplay of setting up Trick Room with the expectation of the Tailwind going from the other side, right? But we know that Tornadus can go for Icy Wind and go for Tailwind, but no Dynamax actually, Yuki. And we're just going to be seeing a raw Astral Barrage coming out from the Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Yeah, I think this is pretty big since we saw the attacking move happen first. Neither Pokemon have used Tailwind. So if this Energy Ball is going to Tornadus, wow, just making an absolute prediction over on Henry's side, taking out Navjit's Tornadus without it able to set up a Tailwind. And yeah, I think we see a Behemoth Blade going in, and which target will it go down? It goes towards the Calyrex Shadow. Not known to be able to take these attacks. Unless it has the Focus Sash item. So, we see two players trade Pokemon, but I do want to say that Henry came out on top for that first turn. Yes, like he lost one of his restricted Pokemon, but the fact that he still has access to Tailwind while Navjit doesn't means that he's probably going to, have the upper hand in this hyper offense next few turns in terms of speed. So, I think Navjit's definitely in for some trouble.
Yeah, definitely so, and I think that's a sort of turn one reads that may make or break your game and your remainder of the outcome of this match. Because in this situation, we've got NJ not going for the tailwind, wanting to go for the icy wind, anticipating the Whimsicott going for tailwind instead, and we just saw the Whimsicott was able to kind of pull the table from underneath that Tornadus' expectations and get KO'd directly from that Calyrex Shadow Rider. That was a lot of damage that it did deal onto the Zacian too, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is any sort of damage boosting item that it may be carrying, as it was not actually did not have that focus sash available. So now we've got the situation that the Whimsicott could just go ahead, set up a Tailwind, and just allow Kyogre to kind of do its thing and just click that water spell button, because that's kind of what it's there for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing I want to point out is there's probably two situations in which the Regieleki can survive this onslaught. One is if it has the Focus Sash, which I kind of want to count out since we just see the Dynamax animation. The next is if it has the Assault Vest item, which became really popular in the one restricted format against these Kyogre teams. So I'm really curious to see if it's the precise Assault Vest variant, or if it's going to be Life Orb, which is a little bit more popular in this dual restricted format. So we go ahead and see the Tailwind come out from the Whimsicott. Presumably the Kyogre will be moving first with this Water Spout. Will this Regieleki be able to take it?
Oh, it may with that Assault Vest, and it does as well. So we actually find out a couple of very interesting things there. There's an Assault Vest from this Regieleki, kind of showing with that Max Airstream, which should be powered by the Bounce as well, right? We've got Life Orb on the Kyogre, which means that it is packing a punch, whilst there is a Whimsicott with a Focus Sash as well too. So in this scenario, you're probably thinking, okay, cool, Max Airstream's set up. This means surely that Regieleki should outspeed the Kyogre. But what if this Whimsicott has Cotton Spore, Yuki?
Yeah, you're right. The double speed control Whimsicott could really come in clutch over from Henry's side. Because, on the surface, I think it's looking a little bit dark for Henry. Like, Navjit really turned the tables there with the Assault Vest Regieleki, being able to take the attack from the Kyogre and retaliate with a Max Airstream to boost the speed. And yeah, we see the Kyogre come out with a Dynamax, which I think is a really good heads-up play from Henry, especially with Navjit, showing that the Assault Vest is on the Regieleki. Not having the Life Orb makes it so that the Kyogre has a way higher probability of taking a Max Lightning coming out. So with the Dynamax, definitely guaranteed to get one more hit off. But we see the Max Guard.
Oh, Max Guard wanting to keep his position with that Kyogre on the field, whilst Energy Ball not quite enough to pick up the KO on the Regieleki, as the Regieleki tries to target down that Kyogre, but is only met with the Max Protect, of course, the Max Guard, apologies, and the Behemoth Blade from the Zacian will be going ahead and picking off this Whimsicott. So that may just be an indication, Yuki, that the Whimsicott does not have a second form of speed control, at least a positively boosting speed control, as it did go down right then and was hoping to maybe pick up as much damage as it could on the Regieleki. And now, all of a sudden, Henry's got his own Regieleki on the field, which does mean that things are about to take a turn for the quicker.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought that was a great play from Henry. He basically gave Navjit no option really to kind of retaliate on this current turn. By using the Energy Ball on the Regieleki, even if it doesn't go down, it can go down to another Energy Ball in this turn, but since the Whimsicott got knocked out, he's able to get a free switch into his Regieleki, which can obviously attack faster than Navjit's Regieleki, thanks to the Tailwind. And yeah, it was a little bit dicey whether the Kyogre would be faster or slower than the Zacian based on how both Pokemon are trained. With the Max Airstream boost versus the Tailwind over from Henry's side, but we see that this Kyogre is, maybe a faster variant, which makes sense. It has a Life Orb item. Didn't really invest too much into the, into its bulk, and yeah, was able to just knock out the Zacian in one hit before it was even able to give it an opportunity to get maybe a Behemoth Blade critical hit. And I think Navjit just used the writing on the wall, and we see a forfeit come out.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because once again, it's an indication of this sort of hyper-offensive meta, right? When you've got this sort of team composition and team matchup between both of the trainers' choices, and we've got Dynamax on the field, and we've got the fact that, okay, you know that you need to establish speed control. If you can can establish speed control whilst removing the potential of your opponent having access to speed control, surely you should win the game. You've got the correct Pokemon that just go for the damage. They just don't care about anything else. And that's sort of what we saw with that turn one from the game one. That was a read read from
Absolutely.
Henry. He had to go for it because he had to play on the expectation of Whimsicott surely has Taunt, maybe. It has Tailwind. It will be going faster than that Tornadus's Prankster. So props to Henry for that turn one. It just maybe went ahead and kind of established him the win. So I'll be very curious to go ahead and see what we're going to be expecting. And we need, NJ needs to kind of like bring back if he can. Maybe go for a Tailwind this time, or is Henry going to play into that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think, the like you said exactly, like there's a really big, like a mind game in the first turn of two Tailwind, mirror matches where it's like, okay, are you going to go for the delayed Tailwind and just, go for a supporting move like Icy Wind or Energy Ball? Or are you just going to go right off the bat so that you don't risk it? Like, at least you get the Tailwind up, even if you get the, the disadvantage from going with the first Tailwind. So we're just going to go jump right into team preview. We see an adjustment actually from Henry's side, even though he was the one who won with the Indeedee. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Like, it's not able to really redirect the two important speed control moves that can come out from Navjit's side in the form of an Icy Wind and Electro Web. So I'm not super sure how effective it'll be here, but the fact that it has the supporting move and Mystical Fire might be able to slow down things over for Henry and reduce the damage output from Navjit's side, especially since we know that the Regieleki is the Assault Vest variant, so it might want to Dynamax. And we just see the animation come right out here. So yeah, if it has access to that Mystical Fire, it can be pretty big for Henry.
It could be, yeah, definitely. But I think just being able to lead with that redirection and the Kyogre is kind of, I feel, cheeky as a lead when you know that NJ is going to be relying on double speed control mode, and surely he should be going for the Tornadus and the Regieleki that he has. But Henry seems like he's got a plan in mind. He's like, no, I want redirection and I want to go Big Whale because I want to deal big damage.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a big play here could be a helping hand coming out from the Indeedee to knock out the Regieleki through the Assault Vest. Will we be seeing it? But we see the Follow Me.
Yeah, Follow Me makes sense here because you just want to establish that this Regieleki, by any sort of means of a crit, cannot pick up a KO on this Kyogre. As we're going to be seeing, Max Lightning comes out, isn't even enough to pick up the KO on this extra bulky female Indeedee, which is going to still be within the red zone of hit points. It's still going to be prevalent on the field, but there was no Tailwind coming out from the Tornadus. It's just going to be a Hurricane double up into that Indeedee. Will be picking up that KO, but of course, the Big Whale is yet to make a move, and it is currently going to do so straight into that Regieleki slot. Can it pick up the KO? Wow. And it does, Yuki!
Wow, I'm super curious to know if Henry had that damage calculation or was just confident that a Kyogre with a Life Orb could just go through a Regieleki even if it has the Assault Vest variant. So that was an absolutely huge turn for Henry. Yeah, I guess I just didn't have faith the Assault Vest would be able to, that maybe the Regieleki was built to survive that, but no, definitely not. And, I think fortunately for Navjit, he still has the option for Tailwind, but I think it's going to be a little bit hard to get through this Kyogre with this extra bulk coming out from the Dynamax here.
Yeah, and I think in this scenario as well, it's kind of tough. You've lost your Dynamax, right? And that is so hard of a blow to take in your turn 1 scenario going into turn 2. Now we've got the situation, like you mentioned, that NJ can still go for the Tailwind. I think Henry just wants to go for damage. If the Calyrex has Protect, he may go for it, go for the safe play, but I don't expect him to do that. I'm expecting him just to go for the damage, and even potentially this could be a choice specs Cali, but we'll find out. The Tailwind did come out, the Cali did go for the Astral Barrage. The question will be, which slot does that Max Kyogre decide to go into, and with what move? Because we could be seeing Max Hailstorm to get rid of that Tornadus, which is now on 1 hit point due to the Focus Sash. Or we could just see a Max Lightning into that Kyogre with the Lightning terrain. But no, we do see the Hailstorm wanting to make sure it picks up a KO, and it also now changes the weather from rain to hail.
Yeah, I think that was a great play from Navjit's end. Tornadus doesn't really have that much offensive pressure. And on the other hand, having, I think the worst case scenario there for Navjit would have been for Henry to double down into the Kyogre, have it take a lot of damage, plus the Tornadus surviving that turn. In that case, you can kind of, Henry could go for, wasting Navjit's, Tailwind turns by having the Tornadus purposely stay alive and just not have the same damage output as the Zacian that came in for that free switch. And so yeah, I think Navjit actually has a solid chance here. I think he just has to make the right prediction of whether the Calyrex will protect or the Kyogre will protect, because I think a double up certainly could go for the knockout.
Oh, but we're not going to see any protect coming out from Henry's side. Behemoth Blade goes into the Calyrex Shadow Rider, does pick up the KO, and this may start changing things based on if NJ can get any sort of RNG in his favor. But no, he just goes for the Water Spout, doesn't even try to go for any sort of Ice Beam or Thunder plays, and as a result of that, we're going to be seeing the Max Kyogre unobstructed go for the Zacian slot, doesn't actually pick up the KO, even if it is Life Orb boosted. It was not rain boosted during that turn.
Yeah, something I wanted to point out, the previous turn was the fact that I thought it was a little bit suspicious how Henry went for the Max Hailstorm into Tornadus, especially since he was going for the Astral Barrage. Even if it had the Focus Sash, it would go down to 1 HP, and at that point, any attack from the Kyogre would have knocked it out. So, if it had still gone for the Max Geyser and not changed the weather to the Hail, then this Max Geyser, certainly would have knocked out this Zacian right here. So, I think his own, Max move, secondary effect kind of, played out, kind of backfired on his end, and now, Navjit has the Tailwind advantage, and Henry no longer has the advantage from the Dynamax anymore. So, I think it'll be a little bit hard for Henry to come back here. I think there's definitely an element of prediction they have to do, because you have to kind of predict which direction Zacian's attack will go to. But yeah, there's no protection coming out from Henry's end. We see Sacred Sword critical hit go right through the Kyogre, and yeah, this Water Spout picking up the Regieleki, since we know that the Focus Sash is on the Whimsicott, and we see Navjit tying up with that 1-1.
My lord, what a turn of events. I mean, that's kind of how hyper offense goes, right, ladies and gents? Let's not play around. You're either going to go and sweep within the first 2 to 3 turns, or you're going to get reverse sweeped if you haven't been able to do that somehow, and, your opponent's found that win con. And I think, like you mentioned, Yuki, and you pointed out, that did seem to be detrimental. The fact that if you're still going to be targeting the Tornado slot, why not still go for the Geyser? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe he was expecting a switch in by any chance, but I think given the sort of scenario, you always go for the Geyser in that situation, because you still want to guarantee that rain being up and you got the advantage. But we saw that the Tailwind was the most important thing for NJ to go ahead and set up. They recognized that win con. The fact that the Geyser didn't KO the Zacian meant that they had that window to make it back in, and they did so, and they did it very, very well to be able to force us into a game 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing I'm curious to see is the adjustment, specifically on Henry's end, because I think, like we talked about, if he didn't really go for that Max Hailstorm, I think he would have a higher probability of winning that match and kind of taking it 2-0. It would basically force a 2v1, 3v1 situation with the Max Geyser knocking out the Zacian. So I think it's debatable whether he wants to, go with the same game plan, because it was technically a winning game plan for him. But he could also go back to the, the Tailwind strategy. But there's a little bit of prediction that kind of has to go into that. You kind of have to do the same turn 1 as game 1 again, which is really stressful, because you're kind of flipping coins at that point, and do you really want to flip coins in one of the highest stake matches you played, in this postseason? So yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think the same. I think it would be quite tough to lead into a Tornadus and Regieleki if you don't bring your own Tornadus and Regieleki. Because I feel like there's a lot of... Oh, sorry, should I say Whimsicott? Because you want to kind of try to establish speed control or redirection to get rid of the main Maxmon from, let's say, NJ's side. And I think, like you mentioned, Henry did that very, very well, but unfortunately for himself, the sort of mid to end game is where his momentum petered out, based off of, I think, we could arguably say that one turn that kind of changed things going, and it would have potentially had a different outcome. So I'd be quite surprised to see Henry change it up. Maybe he's going to be adamant and kind of go with the same strategy, whilst NJ's side, I think he feels comfortable with that lead, even though he did kind of miss that Regieleki. It just got knocked out after one turn.
Yeah, I think, the point of Regieleki is the fact that you can take, any hit from a Kyogre, and most Kyogre, don't really have Life Orb. I think it's kind of dropped off in popularity. I think Assault Vest has been the more popular item on Kyogre, so the fact that Henry is actually kind of surprising Navjit with the Life Orb Kyogre, and Regieleki kind of just loses its kind of meaning in the matchup. I think that makes it really hard for him. So I think Navjit kind of has to make one further adjustment, and kind of figure out a way to kind of mitigate the damage output from Kyogre. Maybe it's intelligent switching in protects or something to kind of stall out the Kyogre and then go for a kind of a counter Dynamax. I think that's an adjustment he could make. So I'm really excited to see that, and I'm really excited to see how these players are going to kick off the third game, because with these two hyper offense teams, I think we both know that the lead make a huge impact.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's one half of the game you got to win, and that is the lead, because it will determine the rest of the remainder and potential outcome of that game based on what plays you can make and the board state, generally speaking. So, talking about board states, we do see NJ bringing back that game 2 lead of the Tornadus and the Regieleki, whilst over on Henry's side, he's changed things up. He's gone for the Whimsicott now and the Kyogre. So, Yuki, I'm smelling a potential E-Web and Tailwind setup from NJ's side.
Yeah, I think you'd be smart to predict that. I think a big difference that we don't really know yet is whether this Regieleki is physical or special. We definitely saw Max Airstream, which is guaranteed to be physical based on the bounce being the only flying type move that Regieleki can learn. But some teams just use that as the method of speed control and still kind of go for the special Regieleki so that Intimidate can't really slow it down. But if it is physical, then depending on how this Kyogre is trained, it might be able to knock out with a Max Lightning. But we actually don't see a Dynamax coming out from Navjit's end, and we see the Tailwinds being matched.
Oh, Tailwinds are being matched. Let's see what the Regieleki does. It goes for the raw wild charge. No E-Web. Oh my lord. Deals so much damage. And Seal, look at all of that damage it takes in recoil as a subsequent cause of that. As we're going to be seeing the Kyogre wanting to focus down on that Regieleki. Of course, it is going to pick up the KO there. But what Henry is trying to establish is getting rid of a nuisance of a Pokemon, a thorn to his Kyogre, essentially. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel like it's dealt so much damage that we've got a situation where Zacian should be able to potentially pick it up from that range. It depends on the training of both of these Pokemon, but I think that was a very, very strong play from NJ there.
I completely agree. I think both players were really used to the hyper offense Dynamax coming out from turn 1, and I think Navjit really turned that on its head, making kind of Henry, kind of respect the Regieleki, going for a Max Lightning based on the wild charge damage. I think it was highly likely for that Regieleki to have knocked it out if it went for the Max Lightning. So instead, just forcing Henry to waste his Dynamax on a Regieleki that didn't Dynamax, and now we see the Tornadus Dynamax. And, with this additional speed control from Max Airstream, it's not looking great.
No, it's not, and I do really like NJ's play here. It makes a lot of sense, but let's see if Henry plays into it. So far, the Energy Ball is there to break that potential Focus Sash, which is not potential, we've definitely seen it, but the Max Airstream goes into the Whimsicott, will be bringing that Whimsicott down to its own Focus Sash, whilst more importantly, kind of similar to what we're talking about, Yuki, that Zacian now has a +1 speed boost, and that is so important for it. It means that it checkmates this Kyogre out, and Henry doesn't target the Tornadus. He actually targets that Zacian, and all of a sudden we've got the situation where NJ's speed control is maximum.
Yes, and man, I'm actually pretty interested to hear why the Zacian went for the Protect there, because, I think based on the natural speed of these two Pokemon, the Zacian's definitely faster than the Kyogre, so, I think if he had gone for the Behemoth Blade into the Kyogre, at that HP with the double damage from the Behemoth Blade, certainly would have picked up the Kyogre before it's able to attack, and basically not risk the double up into Tornadus, which you just, mentioned just now. So, now that this Landorus is coming in, though, maybe it's able to survive the Behemoth Blade. I'm still a little bit skeptical because of the Life Orb variant, probably not having too much bulk, but we see the Max Guard.
Oh, the max guard and the airstream actually goes into the Kyogre instead of the Landorus slot, and that kind of makes sense because we see the Zacian go for the substitute, so all of a sudden we see NJ taking full advantage of a potential passive switch up of Henry's Whimsicott there, because from Henry's side, sure, I want to go ahead and establish that I've got speed control post any of the tailwinds have set up, so I could reset my own tailwind. Maybe I could try to like bring this back if I can and get an intimidate drop, but I think this is just too much for Henry to be able to come back from, as the max Ailstorm goes into the Landorus and unobstructed just picks up the ×4 weak KO there.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to reiterate how much of a heads-up play that was from Navjit's end. From the previous matches, like we saw, we can really see that the Whimsicott really didn't have much to do after it sets up the Tailwind. And, because of that, like, Navjit said, okay, I only have to worry about the Kyogre this turn. The Whimsicott already set up his Tailwind. I don't even really feel that much pressure to knock it out. I'm just going to go for the substitute so that in case that Henry goes for a passive play, and even if he doesn't, even if he goes for an Energy Ball, what do I care? Both these Pokemon resisted pretty well, and I'm just going to get the substitute out so that even if he gets a second Tailwind up, I'm not going to care too much. And yeah, that just pays off dividends from Navjit. Yes, the Tailwind is out for both players, and the Whimsicott's about to come in and be able to set up another Tailwind, but I want to say it's essentially a 1v2 scenario because this Whimsicott just really can't do much to both of these Pokemon, and thanks to the Hail being set up, they're just going to get knocked. It's just going to get knocked out in the next turn.
Yeah, and I think what I'm figuring out and taking into consideration from NJ's play must have been trying to play safe and play around any Cotton Spore Whimsicott stuff. I think it kind of makes sense because you go for the protect there, you have the max airstream, you guarantee the Zacian is going to be faster regardless the next turn, if you can, and then you go for the sub in case Cotton Spore comes out end game and you get Tailwind set up. For whatever reason, it doesn't affect due to the sub, and we just see both Prankster users go for the double Tailwind here.
Yeah, we see the Behemoth Blade coming out from the Zacian, coming out of its own substitute, presumably going into the Calyrex Shadow, which we know is a one-hit knockout, but thanks to the Intimidate, is able to survive, so it's going to be able to get an Astral Barrage off and actually pick off this substitute. So actually, depending on what is in the back for Navjit, it's actually not looking super good. Calyrex Shadow known to be naturally faster than Zacian, so I think with the special attack boost, we might need to see some double protects coming out from Navjit then.
I think the fact that we established that the Zacian did gain that +1 speed from the airstream prior turns, this should be going to NJ's side, especially since he's got Kyogre on his side of the field. That will probably, even though that Calyrex Shadow Rider is at +1 due to the Chilling Nade boost, it may still survive because of its huge amount of special defensive bulk.
Yeah, I mean, great observation on the max airstream. Something that can turn the tables on the Zacian Calyrex matchup. So, I think it's safe to say that unless we have some interesting ways of trading the Pokemon speeds, that's definitely, wrapped up for Navjit's end. Bring it to a 2-1 after a 1-0 deficit. So, just excellent play from Navjit's end. Really, really well played from both players.
My lord, indeed. And what a first set to get us started and kicked off with this second semi-final, ladies and gents. We've got NJ beating Henry 2-1 right now. Now NJ is definitely the official undefeated player so far of the tournament. So I'm really excited and very impressed to actually see that sort of stat be going forwards. I think Henry had a lot of things that I wouldn't say a lot of things. I think the fact that both of these players are really good players, they're very experienced, they understand the matchup, they understand the sort of board state and what they need to do at any given time. It was basically a battle of not attrition, but speed control. It was just all about speed control, who can establish it, and go ahead and kind of guarantee that setup in order to win out and sweep, because the restricteds that they have, the supporting prankster users they have, it all falls in within that mold of, oh no, it's awkward now. We both know what the situation is. You're either going to be doing the Icy Wind plays when you're not going to be tailwinding, or you're going to be doing Cotton Spore stuff. And I think that's what NJ was playing safe against. But it kind of turned out that, from what it looks like, Henry didn't have Cotton Spore, or else I would have expected him to use it at some point. So I think NJ did incredibly well to be able to bring this back. He found a win con, he went for it, and he was able to come out with the game and give Canada that 1-0 so far.
Yeah, I really love how you pointed out the fact that both these players probably really know this matchup really well. They're both using hyper offense. They really know what it's like to face down the tailwind mirror. Like, are you going to the awkward situation? Are you going to tailwind? Are you going to icy wind? And I think we really see the adjustments come out in this best of three. I think that's why this set was such a treat. Is like game one is exactly that scenario that you just talked about. They both had their supporting Pokemon. It was just really a prediction of like, are you going to tailwind? Are you going to icy wind? And I think Henry kind of just ran away with that prediction being correct. And then game two, we see Henry actually really adjust by going for the more follow me supportive role. And then game three, it kind of looks like it might be kind of like game one where the misprediction might cost one player the match. But actually, I think Navjit goes for a great compromise where he just goes for the tailwind, but also doesn't Dynamax as Regieleki.
Yeah.
So he still has a lot of resources, even if he gets knocked out by that Max Geyser. And I think that's really what made him victorious in this match. So, I'm so happy to just watch that match. Like, we have the two players with the best records in this entire tournament, and we just had such a fulfilling game, like 3-game match. Like, what is there not to like about that?
Oh my god, and that damage ET of the wild charge onto the Kyogre was so much. And it, like you said, it just put NJ in such a good spot where he always checkmated that Kyogre as long as he was faster than it. And I think that was the game plan that he was going for, and he just executed it to perfection.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly not going to be the only match we get to see today, right? We have an absolute treat where we're spoiled with 7 total matches today between these two titan of teams. And yeah, we have 6 more coming up. Next is going to be Matt Tid versus Sam Pendelis and many more. So don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thanks all.